All right, Jamie.
Yes.
Again, I don't know if you heard me complain already about.
Well, I know it's like it's like Beetlejuice. Like if you say them like three times, and then suddenly Karen shows up in the corner of the screen and says, "I'm going to fix your technical problem, Kurt."
don't don't call her Karen now. That's
Oh,
that's kind of mean.
well, okay.
It's like one step further. No,
Well, I mean, I haven't.
I shouldn't use the real name. I think what you're saying is don't use the real name.
Don't know real name.
Real names have been redacted for their own safety, right? So while we're in the green room, for those who are watching, we have a special guest, Eric Wittman, AIA.
Yep.
So welcome, Eric. I will wait until we're live, as we said, in the pointing into the future, to do your bio. But
Perfect.
I mean, the short intro is Eric. What are you the? Since this is the green room, it's sort of the practice round. So, are you the inventor of Inktober?
I think.
Here, let me. While we do that, because we have some props.
I do.
I'll share my screen.
I do think that technically I had the first one. There is a guy that I follow that had Inktober as well, and he's now switched to Arctober.
Or is it Inktober? There's
no. There's Inktober. Inktober's been around for forever.
Okay. Yeah, and I used to do the Inktober like every year, and then but I got a little tired. I think this is 7 years ago. I thought that they could just be geared a little bit more towards architecture, and I think if you go back far enough, like some of the prompts were like perspective and 2-point perspective or scale figures or elevation. Because I was talking to people in the office and we were talking about sketching more, and that's how it derived was, well, let's just do an elevation today, or let's just do a 2-point perspective, or let's do an interior perspective. So things were a little bit more geared towards architecture. And then as the years have gone by, I would sneak in little things that I'm not sure if everybody caught, or I would request that you follow, look at someone's Instagram and sketch something that they've done. And last year I had a lot of fun with every other word was inspired by Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
So it followed the trilogy as you went through the month.
Well, and I don't know, but when you got to the end and I didn't get it.
You guys are so close.
I was close. I was trying, and then what was funny was then when you had it, and you revealed it, I was like, oh shit. Oh, here's my one, Kurt. There's my one.
Get one.
I get one. Get one. It's PG-13.
No strikes yet.
No, I was like, Ben Kasdan's favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future. He is absolutely obsessed with it.
Super.
I just was like, oh, Ben. I hope
Back to the Future. I mean, if I had one movie, end all be all, without a doubt, it'd be Back to the Future.
If you were on the island with Wilson, you would have Back to the Future in the DVD player.
He would be bored. He would be bored with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've owned it. Well, now it's streaming, but I had it on VHS. I had it on taped off HBO back in the 80s. I had it on the trilogy on VHS. I had the pack of DVDs, Blu-rays. I think I've owned every media form of Back to the Future.
See, this is the Michael J. Fox tribute part of the podcast.
Oh yeah.
What about Laserdisc?
I did not have Laserdisc.
Dude, I had a roommate in college. We were talking about this recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I have shout out to Yuri. So
we gotta clip this part right here.
Oh yeah, this is great. This is for Yuri. So David had Tyler and I over for dinner, all Italy folk, and Yuri went to Italy with us too. But Yuri was my roommate, and Yuri didn't have a whole lot of furniture. He was also a crazy pizza delivery driver who made mad cash doing that. And all the money he saved, he would buy the toys, of which one was the Laserdisc player. And so he was like, this is it. This is where it's all going, folks. It's going to be high tech.
Oh man, so many people said that. I remember.
Oh, yeah. What was great was it was so big right? And then if it was a really long movie, you had to flip it over. Like it got to the point in the movie, and then
Oh,
you actually had
I've
to.
never actually
Oh,
interacted with one.
oh no, no,
Oh.
oh! Like we had the best AV setup in our apartment. It was a shit apartment, but we had that. So Yuri with his Laserdisc player.
Oh man.
That's
Yeah.
the best.
No, we're literally Back to the Future right now, talking
Yep.
about laser discs. That was
Yep.
a good. That was a good aside.
Especially
Oh,
with
yeah.
that first prompt. Holy crap! So yeah.
So I'm just real quick flashing since we're not yet live,
Mhm.
flashing the screen. So I use a whiteboard. So if I zoom out,
Oh yeah.
this is like from January. So this is like 2024. So from January to now, all our I don't know. It's it's the crazy way my brain works. It's like this little staircase keeps me somewhat aligned so that we don't. I mean, Jamie's good at remembering what we talked about. Sometimes I'm not, I guess. But anyway, so here we are. We're gonna go circle back to some of these. But anyway, so here we are. So I snagged the prompts, but I also snagged this.
Oh yeah.
Cluster of sketches. Because so Jamie's, this is Jamie's day one. And then what I mentioned to Jamie over the weekend. So I got myself, since I teach as well. So I've gotten myself a VR headset. So I'm trying to get into using the Gravity Sketch app. So this is my bowl of blue noodles that I created today. And I just have 2 views so that you can. And I thought it was. See, we'll talk about it.
No. Yeah, don't save
I'm not
all
gonna,
commentary.
I'm not gonna give it away
save
now.
Save it. I want the surprise.
So my challenge on top of, since so Jamie is like the more. He's the what's the word? He's the more reliable Inktober sketcher, and I am the sporadic sidekick. And so this year, Jamie challenged me last week. The last episode we recorded said, I want you to try and do every day. And I said, okay. So then I mentioned over the weekend, I will try and do every day in Gravity Sketch in VR and see if I get better by the end of the month. And so I'm the more I look at this thing, the more I hate it. But I mean, I'm gonna let it live.
I saw it on Instagram today, and it's eye catching. Like I was like, what is going on
spaghetti.
here?
Blue spaghetti. But we'll talk about the prompt in relationship to these. Is it fair to can we keep these sketches of yours too, just for
yeah, that was
reference?
It was like a napkin sketching event they did 2 weeks ago up here.
Love it.
Yeah, that's always a good. That's always fun because the AIA conference, they do that. Well, if the host cities are on top of their game, they're usually trying to curate some napkin sketch thing. This year, in June, DC, AIA DC did pull it off.
They also had John Pendorf, like kind of, encouraging them. So there was maybe some ringers in there, Yeah, when I walked up to the booth, he was like, "Thank God you're here." So,
well, their booth was kind of tucked in the corner. It was
I know. It's kind of always weird. That's strange.
Hard to find. The only thing that made, I think, on purpose, I think they exaggerated their food and drink bar to try and drag people over to the deep corner of the expo hall. They had lots of coffee and lots of snacks. And so, that's how you get people in the expo hall.
I'm taking my team, who've never been to an architecture convention, this week. So we'll have plenty to report out. On
what
the next
city are
episode.
you going to this week?
My least favorite city in Texas, Houston. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, is that it's the TXA?
Yeah, it's a state one.
Our friends, the
Yes.
She Builds podcast ladies are going to be there.
I know. They got a
I
session.
think they're doing a session. So
yeah,
that's
they're
cool.
doing a session on their podcast.
Mm.
So I'm gonna go and give them a hug and represent. So
Oh, is it? I thought what was the other subject line that they had? But that was. Well, anyway, Eric, jump in at any point in time because I'm kind of trying. I got to remember when we have guests to leave. Jamie and I don't usually leave a lot of dead air, you know. So
yeah.
so
No,
just
it's
jump
in a weird way. Like it kind of feels like I'm watching the podcast. I'm almost forgetting that I'm a part of it. So
that you're on it.
Yeah, like
oh, that's great.
It's so natural just to watch you guys talk.
Well, I appreciate that. It's that's the funny part is that it's like we've had friends who listen who are like who haven't seen the video part.
That's bad.
Don't do that.
Sorry.
Who haven't
many buttons.
haven't seen the video but have heard it and they're like, it's like hanging out with you guys. Like this is the way you guys always talk. So I was like, oh yeah, that's probably true. But just so I think everybody feel warmed up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go live here in a second. Just so that you don't feel like you have to interject right at the very beginning. Kurt and I'll do our like immediate intro kind of banter. And then Kurt's got his script. This is the only scripted part of the podcast.
What? The bio.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that Kurt. Yeah. Good.
You had me scared for a second.
He's like,
was I supposed to write something?
Did I write something?
What?
Yeah.
That was today?
Well,
Yeah.
you say that, and I don't know if you've done podcast like interview kind of stuff before in the past, but like other podcasts, they will give you like a list of questions and stuff.
Oh,
and it's super intimidating. And
very formal.
It's very formal. And usually, I mean, at least when I've done it, it's always been the two of us. I shouldn't say that. I've been on one podcast where it's just me. But that's like in the way back. I know, Kurt. It was
I remember.
It was before our podcast.
What? I don't think so. I thought there was another.
It was before you.
It was before you, buddy.
Okay.
I think so. With Michael Rasica.
Oh, young artist.
Well, I was on his too, but then you did. No, remember? I want to point out that you did something with Main Street.
No. Did
last year?
No.
Yeah, I thought
did
so.
I?
Well, anyway, I mean,
did I?
I'm not keeping track.
I wasn't on a podcast with him, was I?
I'm not keeping track.
Was I?
I thought there was. Maybe it was a panel.
I've spoken at conferences.
Oh, that's I know.
But that's different. Okay, yeah.
Anyway,
so we're totally off. So, anyways, so there's going to be not a script of questions.
Okay.
We thank you for participating.
I will. Well, what will happen?
Questions.
I mean, based off the bio, is I'm gonna probably ask a couple of questions for clarification, and then then eventually I mean, you've listened, so we'll have to talk about coffee.
Yeah.
And I want to know about the whole Kansas, like, because it's very, very indelible. It's very indelible to your character, like that whole space and place. So feel free to jump
which
in.
I think will segue from the bio.
It's one state I've never been to. Like, I don't think so. I don't think so. Have I?
It's an easy one to kind of not get to.
Louis in Missouri, or is it in Kansas?
St. Louis?
Yes.
Missouri.
Is Missouri.
Okay. But they're right next to each other.
But Kansas City is in
Kansas
both.
City's in both. That's the one.
Yeah, St. Louis is way on the east side. Kansas City is Missouri and is way on the west side.
Okay.
There is a Kansas City, Kansas, but it's a different city.
Okay. Okay.
Kansas City, Missouri is on both states, but there isn't also.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Wait. No, Kansas City, Missouri cannot occupy both states.
Kansas City, Missouri. There is a Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah,
but it's a different city.
But it's not.
Are they right next to each other?
Aren't
It's
they?
really they're really close.
But Kurt,
It's
there's a river. I think
we have to save
Yeah.
this. We'll save this for the podcast because I'm gonna challenge you, buddy, on this whole like you can't occupy two states and be in the same city.
only in Canada, right?
I do. It's a big thing. It's a big thing up there. Like because companies go across the state lines for different tax incentives,
Mhm.
like back and forth, and
Ping pong?
it's kind of a crutch of the city because it hurts them because they're on two different
Oh, yeah.
states.
Oh yeah, big time.
Mhm.
Man, that's now.
Mm,
I'm so confused.
See,
I
bunch of
do.
architects getting
I've been
together,
to.
talking about
Well,
stuff.
I will talk about my trip to Kansas City because it was fun.
Mm.
But what city are you in then, Eric?
Currently,
Yeah.
I'm in Portland, Maine.
Oh.
Like,
Oh, but
Hey,
are you living there now, or are you?
I've lived here for
Oh, I missed
8
that.
years now. I
Oh,
might
so
not
no
have.
longer in Kansas.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think Jamie's trying to tell me to go.
no, I was pointing at the map. Like in my
Oh,
mental, it's like it's
I thought you were
way,
trying to point at the button. that I'm
way
supposed
up
to-
there. But there's maybe a button on the screen too, but yeah, it's like way up on the map.
All right. Ready? I'm gonna. Let's do it. Ready?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Hey, Jamie. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. But the first things first, we have to introduce our guest because we have a guest.
Well,
And this
first
is how
things
we do it
first
on the show.
is I just want to make sure that everyone knows this is episode 161.
So the first thing before the first thing?
First thing before the first thing, because everybody who just has been listening to the podcast has realized, holy crap, they just dropped like 159 and 160, like, and time just really shortened on us all. And it's almost like they've got some crazy momentum. And now we've got a guest on 161. Boom. Time for the guest.
Oh, our guest is Eric Wittman. I wish I had more sound effects.
Oh no, you're good.
Apologies.
This is the restream. This is the button we're
Welcome.
looking for, folks. This
Mhm.
is we need the cannons.
There's probably all kinds of licensing agreements they'd have to do for that. But we have Eric Wittman, AIA architect.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. And let me do the formal bio, nice and tidy, so our audience has a clear picture of who we got with us. So bear with me, folks. Eric Wittman, AIA, nearly 20 years of experience working on an array of projects from single-family homes, small retail projects, entire schools and hospitals in Kansas, California, and Maine. After graduating from Kansas State in 2006, he worked as a volunteer in New Orleans, rebuilding the 9th Ward after Hurricane Katrina. Cornerstone project being the rebuilding of the House of Dance and Feathers, a museum dedicated to the culture of the Mardi Gras Indians. Throughout his career, he has been dedicated member of the design community, and while working in Wichita, Kansas, he served as editor of AR34, a statewide architecture magazine, and was the AI Wichita president. And now moving to Maine, he's spent 6 years on the Architalks board, a group with a mission to bring architects and designers to Portland, Maine to speak to the community. An avid sketcher, Eric participates and leads exercises to promote hand sketching throughout the year, and he appreciates that his current role at Knickerbocker Group allows him to partner with clients throughout the entire design process, from initial sketches to finalized construction documents. How'd I do, guys?
Excellent. One thing to add, and
The key.
founder and creator and key to Arc Inktober. It's October 1st, folks, and so
Right.
we've got this. We've got the guy.
In case you were wondering.
Arc Inktober, exactly.
Yeah, in case you were wondering that we're right on time, which is why all the episodes were edited and completed and on time.
Thanks,
very
Kurt.
impressive.
But
Thanks, Kurt.
So
Appreciate it.
Eric, well, I guess the first thing we like to do, even though we do I have some questions about your travel, like your life path, because I have a similarities from East Coast, West Coast, and now I'm in the middle of the country. But before that, we like to talk about coffee.
Yes,
because all our audience always wants to know what's in our cup. So Jamie, why don't you go first?
Oh no, I'm going to let the guests go first.
Oh yeah, how rude. Eric, you go first. And if you're not a coffee drinker, it's okay. We've had people like that before.
No,
we've had one, and we still sent her coffee because her significant other likes the coffee, and so
yeah, I love coffee. This is one of my favorite parts of your podcast, and I enjoy dark coffee with no sugar, no milk, nothing. Normally, most offices I've worked at, we have a roastery called Coffee by Design, and they have a dark blend called Ronzo's Double Dark, and that's what I enjoy. You can find it pretty easily up here. I'm not drinking coffee right now, but I do enjoy black, dark, almost like you have to chew it coffee.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's from years of studio and the drinking black coffee just came because I wanted things to be quick, and I'd order it or get it. It was just easier just to drink it black coffee.
Black coffee, moonless night,
concur.
Like channel your inner Twin Peaks, Kyle MacLachlan. It's all good. Yes.
I would concur with that though. Just to, I'll go next because now I'm on coffee. But I think in architecture school, it was. It always stayed warmer too if you kept it black, because if you start adding creamer and milk and things like it starts cooling off. And I don't like cold, lukewarm coffee.
So you're not a cold brew guy?
Not really. I've had some.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Really.
I mean, I feel like as much coffee as I consume, I probably should, living in the state that I live in, to like find a way to get okay with cold brew. There is one spot that I will drink their cold brew because it's like extra dark, extra rich. Like it feels like a coffee, but it's got ice cubes and it's cold. And that's Joe's on South.
I think
South
that's
Congress.
what constitutes cold brew.
Yeah, I know, but it's still got like it's
when it's got the ice cubes and it's cold. That's a good cold brew.
I follow, Jamie. I got
all right.
Yeah, that's I think one of the downfalls is that if it's not rich enough, it's gonna taste really watery. And,
Yeah.
And so anyway, for me, should I divulge the secret that I'm not actually drinking coffee?
Are you drinking the stash? Is that what? Oh, I thought you were gonna like. Okay.
No, I have. Excuse me. Pardon. Because it is an evening recording, so I guess I'm not actually drinking coffee. I've got a mug though. I think I'm gonna edit that out because I think I want to keep the secret alive.
Okay.
But anyway, right now I am brewing.
Secret to Eric on this part is that Kurt has to remember that he just told himself that he wants to edit in a future.
Edit this part out.
Yeah, edit in a future tense because
But
it might appear in the transcript.
I can search the Yeah,
I know. Okay.
I try my hardest, but sometimes it doesn't happen.
And we're back.
And so I have I still have some of that I guess for lack of a better term, like a mom and pop grocer in town, and they have a bulk set of coffee levers that you can pull. And I grabbed, I think it's a dark roast. I don't remember the name. It's on, it's on the bag. Apologies, everyone. I mentioned this last week. I didn't get the bag, memorize the name, but it's pretty good. It's almost gone. So either going back to rootless or drinking all of the Coffee Sketch coffee before Jamie can have any.
Okay, so for those who've had
The
let
rest
out
of
their
it's going to
collective
Eric.
supply,
So.
yeah, I know. So I brought props. Little City, very kind of clever label. I still
Little
like. I
City.
like they're working their design magic there. So this is the El Virgil. It's Colombian. It's a Colombian coffee. They do a lot of good, really sourcing. They work with a lot of local, not local, but sort of purveyors and cultivators of coffee from different regions and very very specific. They also, what's nice is they also tell the story of where this coffee is coming from and who's growing it. But it's I some of the Little City stuff of late has been like, I've been really hit and miss, I have to say. But I've also been really kind of enjoying it, in trying a couple different ones. This one I do like though. And so it's got a guava, strawberry, and sort of chocolate kind of taste to it. The strawberry part kind of drew me in, I will admit. The guava, I wasn't sure what to expect. But yeah, no, it's a good kind of a medium dark roast. And it's one that, as I've said on the podcast before, like I will drink multiple glasses in a day when I'm kind of going. And so when I'm grinding this up and sort of making, as Kurt explained to me what Mr. Coffee is, like a pot of coffee. Yeah. So this is one I can drink multiple ones, but it's good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Sometimes I've had some coffees where it's just, I can only have one of those every so often, but
yeah.
Don't try not
like
to
when we did the blue bottle, like I liked it, but I wasn't gonna have like 2 or 3.
I thought yeah.
See,
okay.
Okay.
I thought it was good. We digress. So let me ask a couple of questions because because then we want to get to some sketches and talk about Arkingtober.
Yeah.
But based on your bio, I think you're approximately around. Not that we have to age guess here, but seems like we're around the same lifespan, and so you've you've been through Kansas, California, and Maine. So I'm really intrigued by the Katrina work. I mean, you did it as a volunteer, so I don't know how you did that without any money. But that was a lot of work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll and then I guess kind of take us to Maine, because I grew up in Connecticut, FYI.
Oh, okay.
So
whereabouts?
I mean, I've only been to. I don't actually know if I've ever been to Maine. I've been to Vermont, but yeah, it's because it's way up there.
I've been to Vermont too.
Well, no, the
Canada doesn't
stuff.
count. Sorry, Eric. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. The Katrina stuff. I graduated college in 2006, and Katrina happened in 2005. And the professor that I had in my 5th year of studio was big on citizen architecture, guerrilla architecture, and he was new that year. So along with teaching us class, he also had kind of a side project that, with friends that he'd had over the years, of going down to help those that were affected by Katrina. And so during the court, after the hurricane hit, he got in touch with some people down there, and he found a gentleman named Ronald Lewis who lived in the 9th Ward, and he had built kind of a backyard garage called the House of Dance and Feathers, and it was just a collection. He was kind of an elder guy in his neighborhood, and over the years had collected all this stuff from the Mardi Gras Indians, and basically people would, and it's I'm not from the South, so all this was learned, but social clubs and helping people, you know, in neighborhoods. He was kind of the head of the social club. So not only was it a museum, but it was kind of a spot in the neighborhood for people to get help
Like a
before the storm.
touchstone
Hmm.
for everybody. Yeah.
Hmm. And that was before the storm. So we kind of realized if we could help him rebuild his museum, that might help the rest of the community. So we went down at spring break and gutted the museum and demolished it. And it was then that we saw his house and realized that rebuilding his museum wouldn't help much if he didn't have a place to live either. So we took on the house as well. So we gutted the house. That was March, and then yeah, after we graduated, so I graduated. I had my studio project, graduated, had a job lined up, but I said I wanted to do this, so it was about a month down the road. So for a few weeks in the summertime, I went down to to the Ninth Ward and slept on floors and got up and um, we didn't have a we had solar powered tools. Like we had a solar panel that charged a generator that powered our tools during the day
Wow.
because there was no power in the Ninth Ward, and just kind of rebuilt his house and rebuilt the museum. And I only stayed for a month. Some people stayed down there the whole summer,
Wow.
but it was really, I mean, it was one of the more eye opening experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, we were Jamie and I were in New Orleans when our committee work for AIA, the Young Architects Forum, was it 2014, 13, 14, something somewhere around there.
14.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we took we all grabbed a bunch of bicycles. There was like a bike shop that rented them, and then we all,
Mm-hmm.
like a whole bunch of us, just rode our bikes to the lower Ninth Ward.
Mm-hmm.
And we were basically downtown, right, Jamie?
Mm-hmm.
And so we rode our bikes, and so the difference between downtown and then as you approach the lower Ninth Ward, I mean, you could see the shift, right, in
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know demographic data. It's like, those sorts of data points and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it was great to perceive it. At that time, it was they had rebuilt some of those those Brad Pitt houses,
Oh yeah.
stuff like that. So I was sort of intrigued by that process. So it was interesting to see them in person. But yeah, our hats off to you for
Mm-hmm.
taking that time and doing that. I think, again, one more thing is the that citizen architect
Mm-hmm.
mindset is something I appreciate and like to try and get involved as well. And I think it stems from early days in school, or right around school, and learning about the rural studio in Auburn, right, and
Mm-hmm.
what Sam Mockbee did. And I think that kind of energized a lot of us in that
Mm-hmm.
in our sort of cohort to try and get involved. So
Well,
Yeah.
and I know, I mean, in full disclosure too, like, Kurt is now co-teaching with a gentleman who, was part of the, kind of that Auburn contingent. And so he's had
Mm-hmm.
had that influence of late, but I totally agree with him, is that I think that there's something about a generation of architects, of which I think the three of us are in,
Yeah.
that, that sort of, it's, I don't think we were even talking about it as public interest design,
oh
or
yeah.
community led design, or
Mm-hmm.
community engagement. Those weren't even terms that, I mean, for the folks today, those are like very common vocabulary
Yeah.
terms. I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
back then it was just like, this is kind of the right thing to be focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we take our
Right.
skills to this place or to these places and sort of think about it?
Mm-hmm.
I think of people like Cameron Sinclair,
Hmm.
and Architecture for Humanity, and that kind of an influence of someone who's a contemporary to us, who effectively is working in New York City doing a bunch of stuff and decides, I'm going to try and create this nonprofit when no one else is sort of thinking about this, for bringing these skills to bear. And so the fact that
Hmm.
you went and did what you did down there, um, even, I mean, and this is the whole thing. Short time, long time doesn't matter to me. I mean,
Hmm.
it's all about sort of the experience of having done it.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, the fact that even today, you're 15 years removed from that,
Hmm.
and it's still tangible,
Hmm.
and probably is something that you can kind of close your eyes and kind of still picture.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what in terms? I'm just sort of always in those types of situations, especially with that, because that was such a devastating event
Hmm.
for that community, and so many folks from there immigrated,
Yeah.
for to Texas and to Austin.
Hmm.
During that time period, I was living in Austin. I was
Hmm.
recently had moved to Austin at that point,
Hmm.
myself. But what was sort of his kind of can you give kind of any kind of explanation or anecdote related to kind of his experience with y'all, or like something, his impression that maybe imparted to you? Because I think
Yeah.
that's sort of always of
Yeah.
interest for me.
Hmm. No, well, to piggyback on what you said, I agree with you exactly. There's our generation and the timing of it. Like when I was in college, and you learn all these skills of how to do architecture, how to put a building together, and then something like this happens, and you learn about Sam Maccabee, and then like it's it was a really poignant part of my life of saying, what am I going to do with these skills? And I could go and work, but this came along, and I said, no, I'm going to go do this. As far as Ronald's point of view, he was so thankful. I mean, he was um, incredibly thankful for us. It was um, it took me. I mean, I'm from Kansas. I'm from the Midwest. So when I went down there, and he would sit on the front porch and talk with people on the street, and I'm from suburbia, so we would grill and have backyard barbecues with in our fences. So this whole idea of him on the front porch, and like we rebuilt his front porch, and he was saying, "Oh, these guys are helping me out," and they'd be like, "Oh," and because he kind of vouched for us, we were suddenly fine in the neighborhood. Everybody was our friend because
Mm.
we were with Ronald Lewis, and it was just really that culture, that front porch culture. He was also big on nicknames, and so like he gave all of us nicknames. My friend Aaron was Fish. I was Big Man, and it wasn't just us; it was people on the street too had nicknames. But it was just really he was very very appreciative, and he was. I mean, he couldn't do much labor just because he was 65, but he was there anytime we were there working. He was outside with
I love
us.
it. I love it. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
the thing is folks like that, when they sort of see you, and your cohort of friends, doing this, you're their architect.
Hmm.
They've never met an architect before.
Hmm.
They suddenly realize what one is, and
Hmm.
you're explaining that to them in real time. and
Hmm.
then and then like you say, I think that's the thing as a designer. Like the designer mind in me comes to play, where what you just described in just a very very simple phrase, he sits on his front porch and engages his community,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know and that move is one where it's like, wow, I didn't think of it that way before I met him,
Hmm.
and now after meeting him, I realize I need to think about which communities I'm in when I'm doing my work,
Hmm.
because that maybe is the way to really approach, a particular client or a community
Hmm.
or something like that. And I appreciate you saying that, because it's something that I needed to hear, because I have a project right now in, you know, in a part of Houston that's gentrifying,
Hmm.
where I've been asked to provide some commentary to a project, And my first reaction when I'm looking at the site plan is, why does it have a backyard? Like,
Yeah.
why is all the social and community connection focused on the back of this building?
Mm-hmm.
And it hearing you describe what you just did is like has given me purpose to, like, I know exactly how I want to
Mm-hmm.
deliver this, come tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Because my instinct was like, I don't understand why this plan is organized the way it is,
Mm.
and it was bugging the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And to hear that, is that solves it, because it's true. It's you have to have these conversations and listen to
Mm-hmm.
folks and meet them where they are, and
Mm-hmm.
and see the value in all that, different points of view. I mean,
Mm-hmm. It was,
Yeah, I
yeah.
find. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to throw in. It's because I find it the the architectural element of the porch seemed like the most or a very impactful
Mm-hmm.
functional space. And I right now with the studio that I'm working in, the students are, they visit the site once, and so they have to do a lot of site analysis and try and like excavate or unearth like aspects of the site
Mm-hmm.
that they're not very familiar with, and they kind of default to Google mapping and
Mm-hmm.
street views and things like that. But I think it's the use of the space and the that sort of conversation about, and I'm not knocking my students because I know a lot of them are listening nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but the so
be careful what you ask
hopefully
for,
they
Kurt. Be
hopefully they
careful what
can
you
they
ask for.
can gain, from your perspective, a little sense of, the subtlety of what I'm trying to get at is that a porch can be a very subtle object related to a building and then related and oriented to the front yard, right? Versus
Mm-hmm.
a backyard. And
Mm-hmm.
that, as Jamie added on to, is that really changes the
Mm-hmm.
the whole dynamic of uh community, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And I mean, the porch that he sat on was 5 by 5. I mean, it was just enough for the door to open, and he had a bench on one side of it, and that was it. But it was right on the sidewalk, and it was he'd be out there all the time, and people would shout at him, and that was we discovered that as we were cleaning up the site, as we were doing demo, and it was very, very, very eye opening right out of
Well,
college. Yeah.
so yeah, so I mean, I think as sort of an like an initial origin to your career, and as Kurt kind of mentioned, you've kind of traveled a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and also served in a couple different kind of professional roles too. Can you speak to a little bit of that, but then also, kind of tee us up for Arkingtober?
Okay.
I mean, I'll just say that, for those who are listening, you and I I think of you as a friend,
Mm-hmm.
but a friend I've never met in real life, and so, we've kind of collaborated, at least sort of in dialogue, especially over these sketches, which I've
Mm-hmm.
loved. And so, if you can kind of, talk to that part of the next part of your
Yeah.
story, that would be great.
Let me see if I can roll that into it. I had a professor in college that said sketch every day. That was that was the rule. At the end of studio, we had to have 50 sketches to turn in, and you can't fake that.
yeah.
You can't decide the night before that you're going to fake 50 sketches. It's something you had to put your nose to and do all semester long. So that stuck, and started sketching a lot after that class. Um, Worked a little bit in California. I lived in San Diego for a little bit. Worked there. Came back to Wichita. And got involved. And that's where I got involved in AIA, and became the AI Wichita president. And somewhere in there, I got really into sketching and sketchbooks, and believed that even though I was working in an office, I still wanted to carry a sketchbook. And I had the typical moleskin, and I never used it. I felt like I could only use that if I was at a cafe in Italy and I was sketching, the Sistine Chapel or St. Paul's or whatever. Like it felt too holy to sketch in. And I was like, I'm not that good of a sketcher. I can't use my moleskin. So the office I was in bought these really crappy, like, or, three, really simple sketchbooks that were just like regular paper, cardboard front and back. And
Oh yeah.
And I grabbed one of those and I wasn't afraid to ruin that. So I tended to sketch in it more and it would be a crap drawing, but I didn't care because it's not in a moleskin. Just flip the page. And there was something about that clicked. So I hardly ever buy nice sketchbooks. I just buy, the simplest thing I can. I ended up, because I'm thrifty, I did have like 2 moleskins that I did work my way through. Because I couldn't stand having that, but I didn't like it as much. I really, really didn't like it as much. I like these cheap
Like
sketchbooks.
you moved a little slower through that book because you're like, oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's not a.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was just gonna. Go ahead. You go.
Oh no! So I got through those, and I'm back to like crappy sketchbooks again, and so then that led to the Inktober that is everybody knows on Instagram, and I did that a few years, and I was literally sitting in the office saying, "Oh, we could gear this more towards architecture," and someone was like, "Well, then do it." So I put together 31 words and put it out. Looking back on it, I wish I had a better name than Arc Inktober. It's a little doesn't flow as much as I wanted to, but when you start something, you never know. So
I mean, you're talking to the guy who can't pronounce crap. So like I'm all about like, trying to make sense of it. And I'm just like, Kurt, what was it like you were trying to teach me? Like, it's not like, and it's,
Are we talking about pronunciation?
yeah, it's pronunciation, but it's like, and maybe it is Arc Inktober. Oh yeah. So yeah, that was it. So is it Arch Inktober or is it Arc Inktober? And so we had this, this was the forever
debate
argument that the two of us have had. So now that we have you,
Arc Inktober.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I always look at it from the fact that arc in this context is architecture.
No.
Not arch.
No, he said it. I heard him.
He said arc.
I know.
Yeah.
But Isn't that what I said?
I'm just. Yeah. I think we're all in agreement.
Okay. We're all saying the same thing.
There are some people that will, when they don't see the word architect or architecture, then they turn it into art.
Yeah.
Something, right? Like,
yeah.
Anyway, we're not trying to burn bridges. We're just trying to, sketch them. Sketch bridges.
Yeah, sketch them.
But yeah. But then so it was actually ended up being a weird way of, like, in September, I would request my friends to send me like 5 words. And it was a great way to keep in touch with my friends that sketched back in Wichita. Like, there's several people that I idolize in Wichita, and here in Portland, Maine, there's some great sketchers. And I would send it out. And I think I sent Kurt, like, maybe that was the first time I DM'd you, was because I knew you did this podcast. And so I sent you saying, hey, I'm looking for some words. And I think you sent me some, and it was just a great way to build a little bit of momentum before actually putting out the words. If you had like 7 people that had put words in it, I felt like they were more likely to participate. So that's kind of how it started.
No, it's great.
I do remember now, and your memory is even better than mine because
Yeah, I think you actually messaged both of us because both of us were like, well, and then it was like the private debate about like, no, you can't have the same words that I'm having. And so these are the things that we're outing ourselves on all kinds of stuff on this episode. But I do want you to talk about last year's, because last year, like you upped your game last year on all the prompts. And we will talk about this year, but like last year, like, please explain, because we tried to explain it and we might have done an okay job, but the floor is yours.
Yeah. So last year I sent out the requests. People sent me like 4 or 5 words, and they were good. And I used to keep a running total. Like, we had never repeated a word. I didn't do that this year. I didn't go back and check. It's getting too long. But so last year I had like 15 words from other people that I really liked. So I spaced them out, and I thought, well, I need to do something. I always like to do a little game. Like 1 year, the first three things were rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny, but that ended after day three. I did something else 1 year where I had you go to other people's Instagrams and sketch something on their page, hoping that would like generate buzz, and I went nowhere with that. So last year I started thinking, I was like, well, I want some sort of theme to tie it all together and see if anybody picks up on it. Like, can they uncover this theme? So what I did was I started at the beginning of Back to the Future and went through the whole trilogy. And so it was 1980, 1980s, 1985, maybe. I don't think I got that specific. It was 1980s, cafe, clock tower, 1950s. I went through the whole movie just picking out little things here and there. And I even, if you remember, one of the prompts last year was I had you go back to the 1980s prompt and redraw it, which simulated the alternate 1985 in Back to the Future 2, where Biff's in charge and it's all chaos. So that was, I thought people would pick up on it then, but and then Ireland, because Marty meets his ancestors in the third one that are from Ireland, and I think train station and cave, and went through the whole trilogy. And being on the outside of that, I mean, I purposely did that to see if you guys would pick up on it, because I listened to your podcast, and you guys were so close. Like, you even mentioned DeLorean, I think. I think you meant, or you drew DeLorean? You drew DeLorean last year.
Mm-hmm.
And still, like, I was like, oh,
we're all around it. Yeah.
You were all around it. It was really entertaining on my side.
Well, and then for a friend of ours, Ben Kasdan, all friend of all of ours, but he's a big fan. We've had him on the podcast, talked about pop culture and art and graffiti and things like that. And hopefully he's listening and gets a kick out of that, because it was.
Yeah,
I met Ben just briefly, but I really liked him.
So that brings us to the present. So, and October 1st, Arkinktober, and you've got 31 prompts. Like, I have to give you props, because it's like, just like year after year. This is the 7th year, is that right?
Yeah, year 7.
Yeah. So for those who've listened to the podcast before, we've definitely spent a fair amount of time talking about this, because it is the time that I try and get my momentum. And if I don't have my vibe or my verve or whatever, like, this is the time of year that I just try and, like, I lean into it all. My birthday just happened. Like, the fall, like, I feel like all the planets are aligned. I feel better about myself. So this just hits right. So I love it. I loved Inktober. 1 year I tried to do both in a single sketch. That was a hot mess. But yeah, so I do look over at the Inktober and I kind of like side eye it, because maybe I'll pick one up every once in a while. But yeah, this is where it's at, folks. So and I've laid the gauntlet down.
This is the one.
Yeah, like Kurt and I are both doing this. 31, buddy.
So yeah, I'm in. I'm all in, pushing all the chips in. And as I mentioned in the green room, I add, of course, because I can't make it just simple as pen and paper, but we'll see how long it goes. I'm going to try and do everything in Gravity Sketch, which is a VR application that we're using at the university a little bit. Well, I'm using it a little bit. Probably there's some other faculty that are really into it, and it's kind of fun. So my quick tangent, because I'm putting out, like I said, I'm putting all the cards on the table here. This is my day one prompt solution for small, which I love. Well, let me go back a second
Yeah, go back. Don't.
because uh, you've got a theme going this year, which is sprinkled throughout. We have slang words that mostly younger generations are going to be familiar with, and thankfully, some of my students use these terms, and so I'm familiar with some, not familiar with others, and although Instagram and social media, um, the algorithm works well enough to when you laugh at something um, that uses these slang words, then they start sending you more.
Is that the way it
Yeah.
works?
I
Is
mean,
that the way the
I don't know how it
algorithm
works.
Okay.
It does what it does, Jamie. And so
Okay.
now I've watched a lot of school teachers use their social media channels to talk about how their students use these
So
slang words.
Kurt, folks, is teaching architecture school, like in a real university and college. Yet his spending his times at home watching reels from elementary and middle school and high school teachers who are teaching the youngins about stuff so that he can feel empowered to. Yeah. Okay. Got
Right,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Teach the teacher.
Yeah.
Right? Teach. So day one,
Decorate the
small.
classroom. Like,
Yeah, and there's a little hidden thing in here too. I didn't know if you guys want.
oh, are you going to give it away, or do we need to find it?
If you can find it,
Okay.
I'll let me lead you to it, and
Okay.
I will stop short.
Ooh.
So
Okay. Can I guess? Can I guess before? Or at least can I tell you, like, so? And this probably has nothing to do with it, but I want to get it out there, just because it's me. So Kurt is like all VR man, which I want Danielle, Kurt, to at least get one moment of you doing the VR thing
from the outside.
outside. Like we need that. We all need
life.
that. Like yes, you can have a newspaper in the background.
Needs that.
Yeah, Arcade-October needs that. After hearing Kurt's announcement of how he's going to approach this, I was like, well, okay, I'm going to try and get all the sketches for all the days, but I'm also going to dig in the crates and like try and put a soundtrack to each one of my sketches.
Right.
Oh.
So each one is going to get one. I don't know where that's going, but that's my extra challenge to myself.
So that's where yeah. Well, so Jamie, we talked about this on the last episode a little bit, right? Briefly. And, so I think we all know what day 2 song is going to be, right? Red Wine. If you're, right. Maybe. Oh, maybe.
I don't know. There's a couple in here. There's a couple in here that just jump off the page to me, like goat. I mean, like there's something in there, like bougie. I mean, there's stuff in there. Like I could have a whole lot of fun with this stuff. So
yeah,
some of them I don't even know what the word is, but I'm gonna I'm gonna Google it and I'm gonna find out. So
yeah.
So was there going to be a hint, Eric?
Give
me hints. Give me hints.
Yeah, let me. So I requested words from people, and one of my college friends, who's a professor at University of Kansas, said that he uses the subchapters of the 99% Invisible book to give his students words to sketch. So if you see a collegiate long, important sounding word
like day 22,
ropes.
Yeah, and ubiquitous and catalyst and configuration and liminal, camouflage, identity. Those were all from the 99% Invisible book.
Okay.
Which he sent me those. I thought they were great. They're kind of specific, but allowed room to kind of get your imagination going. So I like those. So there's about, how much was 12? I think there were 10 or 12 of those. So those were so like collegiate sounding that I balanced those with, I just searched the top 10 Gen Z phrases. And that's where I came up with anything with an asterisk, with
Love it.
small, chuggy, no cap, drip, so it was to balance those words. But then when you start getting, like, if you start getting into the definitions of some of these, it really allows for imagination. And like, did I write that? Like, and I believe me, I had to look these up too.
I would had to look up the collegiate words. So those are the ones that I was like the other ones I could maybe venture a guess, but like
Yeah,
the collegiate
but
ones I was like, oh, I really need to
like
Google this.
bougie was luxurious in lifestyle yet humble in character. And I thought, oh, that's a really nice, like, there's something about that that's
It's
really,
kind of nice sentiment. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like luxurious but humble. Like, I was like, okay, so, but now that there's about 10 other words that I didn't give a hint to,
Okay.
but they do follow a theme.
Okay, so we have to find the theme. So we can check in with you at the end of the month and like see if we
Mm-hmm.
got the theme. Okay.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
All right. Love it.
I like it. I like the idea of like building off of last year's subliminal messages.
And you'll have to you both will have to tell me if like my musical tastes are like par, subpar, sub pop, I had to explain sub pop like the term and the legend to someone from Gen Z because they didn't know what sub pop was, like, and that really hurt me a lot, like just like from someone who grew up with the Seattle sound as sort of like a soundtrack to my life.
Oh yeah.
They did not know what I meant. I was like, oh yeah, I went to Sub Pop, and they were like, and I was in like, they knew I went to Seattle, and I went to Sub Pop, and I thought it was ironic that Sub Pop is right next to the Amazon, like spheres, like the big terrariums that they've got, and they're terrariums. They're gigantic terrariums. But like Sub Pop Records is like right next to like the big terrariums in Seattle, and which to me was ironic. And
Juxtaposition.
Yeah, there was a big juxtaposition of things, and they did not know. I could just see in their eyes they didn't know what I was talking about with Sub Pop, and I was like, oh crap.
Well, that's your staff, right? Your
staff, not my daughter. Like
your younger staff, right? Yeah.
She might like have, yeah.
Trust me, Jamie. It's
I know
with the students, I have to
sometimes
I have to realize that they weren't even born when anything cool happened. So
yeah, and actually that's what spurred the words, the Gen Z was. I spent 8 years here in Maine working in a firm that was just 3 of us, and we were all in the same age. So I had 8 years of like a millennial cocoon, and I've recently worked at a new firm where there's a lot of younger people, and suddenly I'm a senior architect, and everything I was talking about, like you said, goes over their heads. And so they would say, I'd hear these things in the office, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna be chuggy and put their words on my list.
Got it.
So yeah, but hopefully it doesn't come out cringe.
All right, so using that as our segue, let's talk about Kurt's sketch and then my sketch. And we do have some of your napkin sketches because I love it. The thing I will just say this as a preface is even though these are napkin sketches, knowing your sketches from your sketchbook, you have a really definitive style as well, and it's and I want you to kind of describe your process really quickly because like I imagine it this is the thing, is like I look at other people's stuff all the time. I've said it many times on the podcast, is I try and mimic stuff because I try and mimic it from the standpoint of like, ooh, that's intriguing to me. I wonder if I can do that too. And try and get at how you're making it because
Mm-hmm.
that making is kind of interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
But you have I imagine you have a really light touch when you're sketching. Is that true?
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jamie, vice versa. Like your sketches, like there's stuff that you do that I've tried and I just can't, and it's like frustrating. It's like, dang it, like then something pops up and I was like, oh, that's even better. Like, oh, look at that shading. Like I can totally that I would never have thought to shade like that. Like it's very cool.
So these well these napkin sketches real quick are from
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned before the show, right? There was is a local AIA event that you
It was actually
hosted for.
a local magazine, Maine Home and Design,
Oh.
um, has a fall drink and sketch where they just have architects and designers come together, landscape architects, and just a social event. We get you get 2 free drinks, and they put out sketches and have prompts and a series of napkins. So um, some people focus on one sketch, during the course of the hour. I like to try to get as many done as possible. So the top left one was a structure based on your favorite board game. So I went with checkers. There's a possibility of Portland, Maine moving their train station to downtown. So the top right one is
Cool.
what a train station might look like downtown. The bottom left one was just a children's fort in a park. And then the bottom right one was the adaptive reuse of a big box store. So I pictured,
Oh yeah.
if Target turned into some sort of vertical garden and
Oh, that's cool.
what that might look like. So,
Yeah.
but
For as a fun one for yourself on that Target is Google Target Marfa if you have not seen it.
Uh,
Um,
Texas,
and
Marfa,
yeah,
Texas.
yeah,
oh, okay.
and I'll leave it there, and
Hmm.
you can see it.
Yeah, definitely.
These are
But
these are great though. You know,
yeah,
I,
yeah, like you said, Jamie. I do have a pretty light touch. Uh, and it's based off other sketches that I've seen that I like. That I think you see it more in this train station, but I try to be delightfully vague and have things cross and then end up in dots, and I don't like making things really hard edged or hard lined. And some things I throw in there, like on the target, these little swirly, I put little swirlies on the top, and I was like, I don't know if those are wind turbines or art or what, but it just seemed like it needed something. But I try to be vague. Like if someone sees something else in it, I feel like I've done my job. Um, I don't like being really exact, so that tends to be a lighter touch. And then once you kind of get something that you like, you go back over and you fill it in with the shading and might do a little bit of line work weight on it. So that's kind of how I go about things.
No, I love that phrase, delightfully vague.
yeah.
And because as much as that sounds like cheeky, like
Hmm.
if you just sort of like read it on the page, but the way you talked about it, especially with that train sketch, I was like focused on that while you were talking.
Hmm.
Is it's this what's nice about it is the background really kind of the station to me is sort of in the foreground, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then there's this sort of suggestion of buildings that are close to the station that are kind of fitting in with the kind of context, and
Hmm.
those have that sort of touch and dot and suggestion of box and form, and
Hmm.
then the train is also sort of really recognizable kind of up front,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and so there's enough of those elements that you can kind of read yourself into the drawing and find that story with it, which is ultimately that's what a sketch is, right?
Hmm.
It's and I just as you were saying that phrase, like that's perfect. I'm totally using that. So
Oh yeah. Well, no, it really came through with the train station because I was thinking the whole time I was sketching that I was thinking what the heck does a New England train station look like? I mean, you can't really go modern, and you can't, brick. A New England train station was a very, very hard thing for me to put on paper, so it was especially vague.
Well,
You know, I
and the other thing I like about it too is that as you're like, yeah, I need to put the sign on this building. And like I've done that on some sketches too, where it's like, oh yeah, the word is actually kind of important to the sketch,
mm-hmm,
but I don't like putting. If you've noticed a lot of my sketch, I don't like putting words
Sure.
in my sketches.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
I do occasionally, but even then, I'm like, it's like delightfully vague. It's
mm-hmm.
like if you're looking hard enough, you can read the word,
Yeah,
but if not, you're just like, it's a sign.
yeah.
You know,
I was really
Yeah,
happy
that's
with the
great.
signage on that one, but
yeah,
like I
yeah,
feel like that's where my sketches can fail. Is like you write it the wrong way or the wrong
yeah,
font or something, and it's like,
right.
oh, that's not right.
Yeah, like, oh,
People
damn
look
it. It's like I did this great sketch and then I put the word on there, dopey. Like,
that
Yeah.
sucks.
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. So if I have to go vague
Photoshop
on
that out. Yeah,
there,
Well, yeah, I think they're all great. And I think the that that sort of the vague nature, and then going back to your earlier point of kind of using the materials that you have. Obviously, the napkin sketch exercise was with napkins, but your sort of premise of not using too fancy of a sketchbook, and I try and impart that to students. Right, you don't need it's and Jamie and I've talked about it on many episodes. Use the tools that you have at the moment, and don't be too precious about anything. So
yeah.
it's the way to be. And so
Mm.
now I
Oh,
feel. Oh, go
oh, can
ahead.
I say one last thing? And all like people make fun of me on my sketches, but birds are always in odd numbers.
uh one, two.
yes, the power of 3, 5, 7. Yeah.
I have four on that. Yeah. So it's either three or five birds in most
Yeah,
of my sketches.
that's awesome.
Favorite pen? Do you have a
uh
favorite pen
Tool, yes.
tool?
Um, yes, I'm holding it right now. The Unipen fine line. I have a series of these
Okay.
at different line weights, and then the if I'm in a sketchbook, I like my big fat black ink, signature pen for really thick line weights.
Oh yeah, sign pen.
My sign pen, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I love those things.
Ooh.
Or if you mess up, that's a great, when in doubt, black it out.
Yep. Yeah. No, for sure.
We got to use that one too.
Yeah, this is going to be. We're going to have lots of good quotes from this episode.
Yeah.
So Kurt, I have a thought. Is
Yep.
since Eric is the originator of these prompts, like
Mm.
I was going to let him do the dialogue on both of ours
Well, like
related to the prompt,
a
Mm,
critique.
and then we can just
Oh,
sort
that's
of
a good point.
banter and
mm.
jump in from there.
Rather
So
than trying to
Okay.
explain my
yeah,
building, right?
like
Yeah.
well, either of them, So why don't you put them sort of nearish one another, and he can jump where he wants to.
Okay. Oh well, here. How
Okay.
about we do it like this? A little fork.
Oh, there you go. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
And
yeah.
then
This is
you could see
This is great.
the prompt and some sketches.
Yeah. Okay. So the prompt is for day one is small, SMOL, and it's not just small, but it's small in a cute way, is the way I understand it.
Mhm.
And let's see, Jamie's. That's the is that the what? That's in Italy,
Tempietto.
right?
The
Yeah,
Tempietto. Yeah.
which is like the best little decorative Renaissance small building you could have picked. Like that, like you nailed it. Like I'm a little pissed actually that you got to it first because it's just perfect. Like that's
Oh,
what I
let me
had in
zoom in
mind
a
when
bit.
that's what I had in mind when I put that word on there. It was like it's a perfect way to describe that. The Gen Z way of describing that building would be small. It's perfect, and I love. I mean, you have to have it viewing through that arcade. You know, the art you have to, because it sets it up that it's in this. It's not out on its own. It's hidden away. So just nailed it.
So Jamie gets an A.
Mm-hmm.
If we were given grades,
It's not about the grade,
but
Kurt.
we're not. It's not. Yeah. Well, I should know better, right? I tell my students that all the time.
Right. No. I mean, for me, it was
not
like,
for the A.
it was like I saw the prompt and was like, I think I know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't sure.
You didn't
And
Google it? I
maybe,
gotta consult the Google.
I maybe consulted the Google, but and I was right, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like immediately, I was like, well, I want it to be a building, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll deviate a little bit on the sketches, and I'll be kind of going over and doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was like, no, I want it to be a building, and I'm like, okay, so what building? And just the way you prefaced it is exactly the way my brain was working. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the most perfect architecture, pristine object,
Mm-hmm.
but tiny,
Mm-hmm.
and where somebody experiencing it for that first moment, and they're just like, and
Mm-hmm.
it, channel my own Gen Z moment, and I'd be like, and that would be it. That was what I was trying. I was going for it.
It really
And
is. It really
yeah,
is small.
yeah,
It's
it
small.
is.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I was trying to think.
Oh.
God, I'm trying because I have to sketch after I'm done here. But like the jewel box banks from Louis Sullivan. Maybe those could be small, but they're.
Well, and you're right, because I was sort of going that direction too. I was like, oh, well, you
Mhm.
could pick a cool detail,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, there's the Scarpa with the
Oh, yeah.
the Olivetti store, it's
Mhm.
it's this kind of jewel boxy kind of space and
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh.
I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I went
Yeah.
16th century small, folks.
That's
You have to. Yeah. Modern. I don't get the small vibe in modern architecture.
No.
There's something about it being more ornate and decorative that it's small in a cute way. So it's I really enjoyed it.
So how then does my sketch stack up in your interpretation of my
Yeah.
abstractness?
Well, it's on a plate or a saucer or plate, or I mean, it does look like it's handheld, which I think is good. Um, and it's I think the small aspect is there. It's organic, and you have the sphere there, and um, yeah.
Don't worry, we're not doing grades, right? We
Uh,
decided.
um, I was trying to think if the blue was just what comes out of the program, or if you chose blue, or
No, I did paint it. Paint
okay.
the sort of bowl thing,
Mm-hmm.
and
So
then
did you
the
draw the
objects.
bowl too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Okay.
yeah,
That was
let me
the part that I wasn't quite sure.
explain a little
yeah.
bit. I need to, and this is a learning moment for me because this is all new technology, really.
Mm-hmm.
So in VR with this app, right? So the first, basically, I left everything. I didn't delete much. But you have this. So you basically wave the the joysticks around,
Mm-hmm.
and you can draw. These are like basically little scribbles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not totally arbitrary. It's kind of hard to read them, but
Well, I mean, you're creating them.
you're
Mm-hmm.
basically
Yeah.
drawing. I mean, if you had a piece of, I mean, you don't have paper. I mean, it's basically in space, so you
Mm-hmm.
can go X, Y, or whatever, X, Y, Z, and so the initial tendency is to draw like basically this weightless spaghetti,
Mm-hmm.
like around, and then you can change different pen types and stuff. And then they had this other tool that is like um, basically it gives you a ring or a circle, and then the way you move your hand, it's like
Like a
throwing
potter's wheel.
clay. Yeah, kind of, which is
Okay,
what
because
creates this
I was as you're
revolved.
describing it,
Mm-hmm.
I was imagining it's like there's almost like two different actions going here.
Yeah, well, and
Mm-hmm.
they. I didn't build it all at the same time. I sort of changed tools and basically created this revolved plate. Now, in and then it basically draws it symmetrically. So you're kind of like just trace this profile, and it sort of like carves the plate, which is all of it so far is rather intriguing because how well the plate piece is very mathematically driven, right? All I have to do is just trace the profile, and it
Mm-hmm.
starts extruding it or generating it. And then
Mm-hmm.
the noodles or whatever, the little squiggles are interesting because you're just kind of like it floats and it moves in space. So the thing though is that there's, for me at least, so far, is there's no sense of scale in this
Mm-hmm.
space. Like anything, and you can like basically grab the objects and make them big and small, big and small, big and small. So what I did, and what would have helped me, is if I had something for scale, because I drew this big plate that you see, and then I shrunk it down, and then and when you're in VR, it's like down there versus
Mm-hmm.
up here in your face. So then it starts to appear smaller, and the curves become a little less. The tightness of the curves kind of scale in and things, but I don't have anything to compare it to, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know
So, was there a
that's what happened.
moment when you were in VR when you're like, "This is cute"?
Kind of, especially when I shrunk that plate down and it was sitting there, and then I cut a little section through it, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool. And then
What?
you had the profile line.
Yeah. I like Jamie's question, and actually, when you put it, looking at it, the plate is cute, and almost if you would have, you know, turned it upside down, you're not
Uh,
far off from Jamie's drawing. Like I
oh,
think you could almost, like the way you were saying it,
oh,
you could do the outline of that building,
oh,
and you would have created. It would have been like this cute little bowl, cute
oh,
little plate.
that's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like, I mean, you almost created like a little vignette, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um and it's um
That's interesting.
yeah, and I think that's a great observation, because it's like you almost create this little vignette,
Mm-hmm.
and the way you kept describing it, Kurt, with your hands, and you were like, "Oh, I was playing with the big and the small," and like you kept using the word small, but not the word small like that we're seeing on the prompt small,
Not the
but the
right
small
small.
small with the
Mm-hmm.
A, the small with the A, not the small with the O, and and as you're making these gestures, I just kept thinking the same thing. I was like, it's like he wants it to be in his hand.
Yeah,
And then Eric,
Yeah.
it
when you
was.
said like flip it upside down, and kind of like, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind
Well,
of
the flipping is a great idea. It was essentially like in my head, it was like this big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Instagram, fills the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I am learning some things from this critique because now I want to try. So tomorrow will be interesting because I will
yeah.
try.
Tomorrow's red wine,
I
buddy.
want to try and actually. I don't want to make the gravity
Hmm.
sketch
Hmm.
thing look like a hand drawing, but I want to take
Mm-hmm.
some of the shine off of it
Mm-hmm.
and make it
Well,
look
to
a little
take the
rougher.
shine off, you might need to get a bottle of red wine and drink some of it, and then put
Mm-hmm.
the VR goggles on, and then ask Danielle to take a video of you while you're doing it.
Well, we have
Yeah.
30 more opportunities
Yeah.
to capture.
Oh yeah. Red wine. Red wine's the big one for me, though. I want to see. I want to see this. So
Yeah. Coffee sketch after dark. Red wine
yes,
sketch.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You are hitting all the hashtag prompts for me right now.
So that was great. I feel like
No,
we should.
it's really cool, Kurt. Like it's something I've never really. I like it. I hope to see more.
Oh, thanks. I feel validated. The I feel like I can. I'm on the same plane, right? No pun intended.
So I'm gonna throw this out there because I know that we're getting kind of close to the end of the episode. But Eric, would you be willing to come back on at the end of the month
Ooh.
and maybe as like I'm thinking of you as I think of your job for the month of October for us sketchers in architecture world as you're like the curator. Like we're all getting to play in your museum and you're like the curator, like, and you've kind of given us some parameters to play with and said the galleries are open, y'all, go do your thing. Would you be willing to come back at the end of the month and maybe or November and sort of chat with us as an epilogue to all this?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And
Yeah.
Thank you for saying yes. because
then
we will have fill the whiteboard and we'll have a pinup.
Yeah.
And we'll have some red wine.
62 sketches, buddy. 62 sketches. It's the lightning round to end all lightning rounds.
Oh goodness.
That's
I don't know
great.
if you ever listened to that episode. The lightning round was
that last?
No, it
last
was
year's?
It was a while back.
Ago?
We've done it. We've done it once in a while. Like,
it's
on a whim.
They can
it's a Kurt creation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of the mad genius. But this would be the epic lightning round. Let's see. Is there a word that would it would be, I guess it's a vibe.
Oh yeah.
Lightning rounds are
okay,
vibe.
so put the prompts back up just to end because I just want to ask Eric like one final question for me.
Yeah.
So of the prompts, which because I imagine as you're sort of curating some of this stuff, you're just like, oh, that's a great one. Like I can't wait to see what somebody might pull on this one. Like, is there is there one that you can just sort of like go, I can't wait. Like
Yeah. Well, and like what you said about being the curator of this, I know, not personally, but I know a lot of people that participate, and certain words I picture certain sketches. So actually on yours, I actually was most excited to see Accreations. Was the one I really was looking forward to see on your style.
Challenge accepted.
I have another friend that I was excited about. It's a vibe. She has very, intricate, beautiful sketches. So I was excited about it. It's a vibe. Bougie, I was definitely looking forward to. Midwest Central. And then yes, To Go was an odd one that I did some retail architecture, so things like, are you going to go the retail route, or is it things that are quick, or the thing I've always enjoyed is like, I don't like when people like are real strict with the words, but I like to see there be some sort of connection. And you always do a good job of that, Jamie. Like, you kind of take the word and kind of branch out a little bit. Like, that's what I enjoy seeing. So To Go was kind of one of those that I was like, oh, it could go a lot of different ways. So, but
I appreciate that. I mean, and for Kurt, I mean, this isn't calling you out, Kurt, but this is your first year that you're going to be like fully leaning into it. So I'm excited because there's a lot of words in here just as you were saying, Eric, about like once you're like, oh, I have a friend who might do this, or Jamie might do that.
Mhm.
You know, I'm knowing Kurt's going to participate, hopefully for all the whole month or most of it. Like, there's a plenty of words in here that I'm just like, I want to see what comes out of his brain,
Mhm.
on this particular one, because it's sort of the same thing. And like one's like Kurt has used the word liminal
Mhm.
way too many times for me, like, and and so I I don't know what that's going to look like as a sketch, for instance, and but I'm all for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I will be the
Well,
target audience for that
I'm
one.
glad it's near the end of the month. It gives me 28 days to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's great.
So, yeah, I feel like we have a bit of the inside baseball as far as now we know that don't take it too literal is the tip.
Mm.
Have some fun with it. So
Yeah.
I will say what my parting thought, just to help promote your prompts, promote Arkinktober, is I've shared it with my lecture class in the morning, and then a lot of them are in my studio class in the afternoon, and so I
Get that
showed them the
guy who's
prompts.
teaching with you, who does all the ragdoll sketches. Like, I would love ragdoll sketches to come
Oh yeah,
back.
we
Like, Eric knows
that
the
guy.
ragdoll sketches. He knows what I'm talking about. Like, I'd love for the ragdoll sketches to like start showing back up like in the real world. And if he like maybe participates,
Mm.
in this, that would be fun. So
We'll get a little, but the students are there. I mean, well,
they don't listen to our podcast though. Him and Evan. So it's
I think they do. I think they do.
maybe they do. Maybe they
The,
do.
the students will get the third theme. I
Okay.
guarantee that now.
Oh, okay. All right. So you say the old guys won't.
Oh,
Challenge
interesting.
accepted. We're gonna work on
Ooh,
it.
I like that. All right, I'm gonna we're gonna circle back. I think we've held our guest hostage for long enough.
This has been great. It's really, I mean, it's been great. It's been great to talk to you guys, and I felt like you were friends on social media, and it's nice to see that. I feel like it works in video as well.
Well, and soon, hopefully, in real life, real
Yeah,
life. So,
exactly.
thank you so much. And we're definitely holding you to that, like coming back at the end of the month, for the the recap.
That sounds good.
All right, thanks.